I woke up at 6:30 on December 20th to my phone buzzing like an angry hornet. 101 missed calls. My heart hammered as I scrolled through the notifications expecting news of an emergency or death. Instead, I found something worse. My entire family of 17 people had coordinated a Christmas vacation departure without me, despite me being the one who paid for their $16,500 luxury cabin rental in Colorado. The booking confirmation emails sat in my inbox while frantic voicemails demanded I fix their check-in problem immediately. Then I saw it. A screenshot accidentally sent by my sister Amanda from a group chat called Christmas Without Buster. My phone rang again before I could process what I had just seen. Amanda's voice cracked through the speaker with barely contained panic. "Buster, thank God you finally answered. We're standing outside this gorgeous mountain resort and they're saying our reservation doesn't exist. You need to call them right now and fix this mess. Everyone is furious and the kids are crying." I pulled the phone away from my ear, staring at the screenshot she had accidentally forwarded. Christmas Without Buster. The words felt like ice water in my veins. "Amanda, what is Christmas without Buster?" Silence stretched between us for several heartbeats. Then she laughed nervously. "What are you talking about?" "Look, we don't have time for games right now. Just call the resort and get us checked in. You sent me a screenshot from a group chat called Christmas Without Buster. What is that?" More silence. Then I heard her whisper to someone nearby, probably her husband Mark. "He saw the chat name." My brother Derek grabbed the phone from her. His voice carried that familiar edge of irritation he always used when talking to me. "Listen, Buster, we can explain everything later. Right now, we need you to handle the reservation situation. We've been driving for 6 hours and everyone is exhausted." "Explain what exactly, Derek?" "Look, it's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." Derek sighed heavily and I heard car doors slamming in the background. "Fine. You want to know? Yeah, we made a separate group chat, but only because we needed to coordinate the logistics without overwhelming you with every little detail." The lie sat between us like a dead fish. Derek had never cared about overwhelming me with details before. He was the same brother who called me at 2 in the morning when his truck payment was late. "Send me the screenshots." "What?" "Send me screenshots of this group chat that was supposedly protecting me from details." "Buster, this is ridiculous. We're standing in a parking lot in Colorado and you're worried about some stupid chat messages. Send them or I'm not making any phone calls." I heard him curse under his breath. Then my phone buzzed with incoming messages. Screenshot after screenshot filled my screen, and with each image my chest tightened like someone was slowly crushing my ribcage. The first message was from my Aunt Sarah, sent 3 weeks earlier. "Honestly, I think this will be our best family Christmas ever. No walking on eggshells around Buster's constant need for validation." My mother Carol had replied, "I know it sounds terrible, but I'm actually excited to relax without worrying about his feelings every 5 minutes. Remember last year when he got upset that we didn't use his suggested itinerary?" Cousin Jake chimed in, "The family ATM thinks he buys friendship, but at least this year we can enjoy Christmas without his desperate attempts to be the center of attention." Uncle Tommy added, "We should have done this years ago. The man tries so hard to be everyone's favorite that he exhausts everyone around him." But the message that destroyed me came from my grandmother Rose, the woman who had raised me when my parents went through their messy divorce. The woman whose assisted living facility bills I paid every month. She had written, "Buster has always been too needy for his own good. Maybe some time alone will teach him that love can't be purchased." I scrolled through weeks of planning messages. They had discussed every detail of the trip I was paying for, down to who would sleep in which room. The room I usually stayed in was being converted into a playroom for the children. They had debated whether to tell me the truth or make up a story about the trip being canceled. The final screenshot showed a message from my father, Robert. "If he finds out, we just tell him we can't afford to pay him back right now. He never demands money anyway. Worst case scenario, we promise to invite him next year." My hands shook as I held the phone. 28 years old, and I was just now learning that my entire family considered me an emotional burden they tolerated for financial benefits. Derek's voice came through the speaker again. Look, some of those messages might sound harsh, but everyone was just stressed about planning. You know how complicated family trips can be. You called me the family ATM. That was Jake, not me. You all agreed with him. Buster, can we please deal with this later? There are 17 people here, including Grandma Rose, and she's not doing well in this altitude. 17 people. The number hit me like a physical blow. My entire extended family had coordinated this elaborate deception. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandmother. Every single person I considered my closest family had participated in excluding me from Christmas while expecting me to fund their celebration. Fix the reservation yourself, Derek. What do you mean? Call the resort yourself. Use your own credit card. Handle your own vacation. Buster, don't be ridiculous. The reservation is in your name. They need to hear from you. Then I guess you have a problem. I hung up the phone and immediately blocked Derek's number. Then Amanda's. Then I started going through my contacts, blocking every family member who had participated in the group chat. Every person who had spent weeks planning the perfect family Christmas vacation without the family member who was funding it. My phone buzzed with text messages from unblocked numbers. Cousins who hadn't sent screenshots were now frantically trying to reach me. But I could see the pattern clearly now. The same family members who rarely contacted me, except when they needed money, were suddenly very concerned about my emotional well-being. I walked to my kitchen and made coffee with steady hands, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. Through my window, I could see my neighbor Mrs. Henderson hanging Christmas lights on her porch. Normal families preparing for normal holidays with people who actually wanted them there. For the first time in years, Christmas morning was going to be quiet. While my coffee brewed, I opened my laptop to research the vacation rental cancellation policy. What I discovered made my stomach drop through the floor. The Colorado Mountain Resort reservation was just the tip of an iceberg I had been ignoring for 3 years. As I scrolled through my bank statements and credit reports, the full scope of my financial entanglement with my family became crystal clear. I wasn't just their vacation funding source. I had somehow become their personal financial institution. Derek's truck loan for $38,000 showed my name as the primary guarantor. When had I agreed to that, I remembered him asking me to co-sign just as a backup, because his credit score was too low. The salesman had assured us both that my signature was merely a formality, that Derek's income was sufficient for the payments. But there it was, in black and white. If Derek missed payments, the bank would come for me first. Amanda's mortgage documentation revealed another shock. I wasn't just a co-signer on her house loan. I was listed as the backup payment source, meaning if she defaulted her mortgage, company would automatically withdraw payments from my checking account. The house she lived in with her husband Mark and their 2 children legally considered me the responsible party for payments. My parents' credit card statements showed a detail I had never noticed before. 3 cards with a combined limit of $45,000 listed me as the authorized backup payment method. Every month, any unpaid balance would trigger an automatic transfer from my savings account. I had been covering their overspending for 2 years without realizing it. Uncle Tommy's business loan documents contained my signature on a personal guarantee. His landscaping company owed $62,000 to a commercial lender, and I had apparently promised to cover the debt if his business failed. I remembered Tommy mentioning something about needing a financial reference, but I had no memory of signing documents that made me liable for his business decisions. Cousin Jake's college tuition showed automatic payments of $3,000 per month coming directly from my checking account. His student loan applications listed me as a family sponsor, which apparently meant I was committed to funding his education regardless of his academic performance. Jake was in his 6th year pursuing a 4-year degree, changing majors every semester. Grandmother Rose's assisted living facility had my name and credit card on file as the responsible family member. Her monthly fees of $4,200 automatically charged my account. I had been covering her expenses for 3 years, believing it was a temporary arrangement while the family organized a long-term payment plan. The family cell phone plan showed 12 active lines, all charging to my credit card. 17 family members shared phone service that cost me $460 monthly. I was paying for phone service for people who had just excluded me from their Christmas vacation plans. Next summer's family reunion already had a hold on my credit card for $4,000. The same family members who considered me too emotionally needy to spend Christmas with had booked another vacation on my financial guarantee. As I tallied the numbers, my hands started shaking again. Over 3 years, I had become financially responsible for every major expense in my extended family's life. Car loans, house payments, credit cards, business loans, education costs, elder care, phone service, and vacation rentals. The total monthly obligations exceeded $8,000. My salary as a software engineer was good, but it wasn't infinite. I had been living in a small apartment and driving a 10-year-old car while my family used my credit to finance houses, new trucks, business ventures, and luxury vacations. They had systematically transferred their financial risks to me while carefully ensuring I felt emotionally obligated to continue supporting them. The vacation rental cancellation policy allowed full refunds up to 48 hours before check-in. Today was December 20th. The family was scheduled to check in December 22nd. I had exactly 48 hours to decide whether to throw away $16,500 or establish the boundary I should have set 3 years ago. I picked up my phone and dialed the resort's customer service number. Alpine Luxury Retreats. This is Jennifer speaking. How can I help you today? I need to cancel a reservation for tomorrow. The booking reference is AC 47892. Let me pull that up for you, sir. Yes, I see the reservation for 17 guests. Just to confirm, you're wanting to cancel the entire booking, said C. I thought about Derek standing in the Colorado parking lot with 16 other family members who had spent months planning a Christmas celebration that deliberately excluded me. I thought about my Aunt Sarah looking forward to a Christmas without walking on eggshells around my need for validation. I thought about my grandmother believing that time alone would teach me not to purchase love. Yes, please cancel the entire reservation. I can process that cancellation for you right now. The full refund of $16,500 will appear in your account within 3 to 5 business days. Is there anything else I can help you with? That's everything, thank you. I hung up and immediately called my credit card company to report the card as lost, which would prevent any family members from charging additional expenses while I figured out how to extract myself from the financial web they had built around me. The next call was to my bank's customer service line. I needed to understand exactly which automatic payments were coming out of my accounts and how to stop them without destroying my own credit. As I waited on hold, I realized that my family's exclusion from Christmas might have been the wake-up call I needed to see how completely they had been exploiting my desire for their approval. Instead of acting on anger, I spent December 20th making phone calls and taking notes. If my family had been systematic in their financial exploitation, I needed to be equally systematic in my response. My first call was to Derek's truck loan company. The customer service representative confirmed what the documents already showed, but added details that made my situation worse. According to our records, you're not just a co-signer, Mr. Hartwell. You're the primary guarantor, which means you're financially responsible for this loan, even if Mr. Derek Hartwell disappears completely. His 3 late payments in the past 6 months have already generated negative marks on your credit report. Derek had been late on payments he had assured me would never be my problem. What happens if I remove myself as guarantor? You would need Mr. Derek Hartwell to qualify for the loan independently or find another guarantor with acceptable credit. If neither option is available, we would require immediate payment of the remaining balance. What's the remaining balance? $34,215. I thanked her and called Derek's number, forgetting I had blocked it. I unblocked him long enough to send a text message. You have 72 hours to remove me from your truck loan or pay off the balance. Your late payments are damaging my credit. His response came immediately. Are you insane? I can't get a loan without your guarantee, and I definitely don't have $34,000 lying around. I blocked his number again and called Amanda's mortgage company. That conversation was even more disturbing. Mr. Hartwell, you're listed as the backup payment source on this mortgage, which means you're essentially a co-borrower. Your sister has missed 2 payments in the past year, and both times we automatically withdrew funds from your account. This arrangement requires your active participation to dissolve. How much would immediate payoff cost? The remaining mortgage balance is $267,000. I hung up and called Amanda directly. Her voice was strained when she answered. Buster, thank goodness you called. We're still stuck at this resort and nobody can figure out why our reservation disappeared. I canceled it. You what? I canceled the vacation. All $16,500 of it. Silence stretched between us before she spoke again, her voice rising to a near shriek. Are you completely out of your mind? There are 17 people here, including children and elderly family members. It's December 20th. Do you have any idea how impossible it will be to find accommodations at this late notice? You have 30 days to remove me from your mortgage or refinance without my involvement. What are you talking about? Your mortgage company has been automatically withdrawing missed payments from my savings account. I'm no longer willing to be your backup payment source. Buster, you're not making sense. Can we please deal with whatever this is after Christmas? 30 days, Amanda. I hung up and called my parents. My mother, Carol, answered on the first ring. Buster, honey, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this whole family is stranded at a resort in Colorado because you canceled their reservation. This isn't like you. Mom, I need you to pay off your credit cards or remove me as the backup payment source. What are you talking about? You have 3 credit cards with a combined balance of $28,000. Every month when you don't make full payments, the remaining balance automatically charges to my account. That can't be right. It's been happening for 2 years. I heard her put the phone down and whisper to my father. When she came back, her tone had shifted from confusion to defensiveness. Robert says we never agreed to anything like that. Check your credit card agreements, Mom. You have 72 hours to make other arrangements. The next call was to Uncle Tommy's business line. He answered with his usual boisterous energy. Buster, did you hear about this Colorado disaster? Your family is stuck at a resort with no place to stay because of some computer glitch. It wasn't a computer glitch, Tommy. I canceled the reservation. His tone changed immediately. Why would you do something like that? Because I found out about the group chat called Christmas Without Buster. Oh. Also, you have 72 hours to remove me from your business loan guarantee or pay off the $62,000 balance. Buster, that's impossible. You know my business depends on that loan. Then you should have thought about that before planning a family vacation that deliberately excluded me. I hung up and called Cousin Jake's university financial aid office. The conversation confirmed my worst fears about his educational expenses. Mr. Hartwell, you're listed as the family sponsor for Jake Morrison's educational expenses. His current program shows him enrolled in his 6th year with no declared major. At this rate, his estimated graduation timeline extends another 3 to 4 years. What happens if I withdraw my sponsorship? Jake would need to apply for student loans, find alternative funding, or discontinue his enrollment. I called Jake directly. Buster, dude, I heard you totally screwed the family vacation. What's that about? It's about me being excluded from a vacation I was funding. Also, I'm withdrawing my sponsorship for your college expenses. Wait, what? You can't do that. You've been in college for 6 years, Jake. You've changed majors 4 times and you're not even close to graduating. College is about finding yourself, man. You can't put a timeline on personal growth. You can when someone else is paying for it. I hung up and made the hardest call of the day. Rose Gardens Assisted Living picked up after several rings. Good afternoon, this is Patricia at Rose Gardens. How can I help you? This is Buster Hartwell. I need to discuss my grandmother Rose Morrison's payment arrangements. Of course, Mr. Hartwell. Your grandmother speaks about you constantly. She's so proud of how you take care of everyone in your family. The irony nearly choked me. I need to understand the process for transferring financial responsibility to another family member. Oh my, is everything all right? I just need to know what options are available. Well, you're currently listed as her responsible party, which means you've guaranteed payment for her care. If you wanted to transfer that responsibility, another family member would need to qualify financially and complete our approval process. What if no other family member qualifies? Then your grandmother would need to apply for Medicaid or find a more affordable care facility. I hung up feeling sick to my stomach. Rose Gardens was a beautiful facility where my grandmother had friends and activities she enjoyed, but I couldn't continue funding her luxury care while she participated in excluding me from family gatherings. As I was processing this emotional conflict, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Buster, this is Rachel Morrison, Jake's sister. Rachel was cousin Jake's younger sister, about 25 years old, who worked as a paralegal in the next town over. I rarely spoke to her at family gatherings because she usually kept to herself. Hey Rachel, are you calling about the vacation situation? Actually, I'm calling because I wasn't invited on the vacation either. That stopped me cold. What? The family decided there wasn't enough space for everyone, so they excluded both of us. But they still expected you to pay for it. I sat down heavily in my kitchen chair. Rachel, how do you know about the group chat? Because Jake showed me screenshots when he was bragging about how they planned the perfect family Christmas without the two family members everyone finds annoying. My heart started pounding again. They think you're annoying too. Apparently, I ask too many questions about family finances and I make people uncomfortable by remembering inconvenient details. What kind of inconvenient details? Like the fact that you've been financially supporting most of this family for years while they mock you behind your back. Like the fact that Uncle Tommy's business has been failing for 18 months, but he keeps taking money from you to cover his losses. Like the fact that your parents have been deliberately overspending on their credit cards because they know you'll cover the difference. Rachel's voice carried a sharp edge I had never heard before. I've been documenting some of this stuff, Buster. Not because I plan to cause trouble, but because I work in a law office and I recognize financial abuse when I see it. Financial abuse. That's what this is. Your family has systematically manipulated your emotional attachment to them in order to exploit you financially. They've created a situation where you're afraid to set boundaries because you think it means you don't love your family. I rubbed my forehead, feeling a headache building behind my eyes. Rachel, can you meet me somewhere? I think I need help understanding exactly how deep this goes. I'll be right over. And Buster, I'm proud of you for canceling that vacation. It was the smartest thing anyone in this family has done in years. Rachel arrived at my apartment an hour later carrying a thick manila folder and a laptop bag. She was a petite woman with sharp brown eyes and shoulder-length black hair, wearing jeans and a sweater that made her look like she was ready for business. Before we get started, she said, settling into my living room chair, you should know that your phone has been ringing nonstop. The family drove back from Colorado this morning and they're furious. They drove back. All 17 of them, 4 cars and a caravan heading straight here. Uncle Tommy called me demanding your address because apparently you've been blocking everyone's calls. My stomach dropped. I didn't give Tommy my address. He got it from your grandmother. She has your address for the holiday cards she sends. Rachel opened her folder and spread documents across my coffee table. Bank statements, loan agreements, credit card applications, and printed emails covered every surface. Buster, what I'm about to show you is going to make you angry, but you need to see how systematic this has been. The first document was a printed email chain between my parents and Uncle Tommy from 18 months ago. The subject line read, Buster Coordination Strategy. Your Uncle Tommy suggested they organize their approach to asking you for financial help, Rachel explained. They were worried about overwhelming you with too many requests at once, so they created a schedule. The emails detailed a monthly rotation system. Derek would ask for help with his truck payment in January. Amanda would request mortgage assistance in February. My parents would mention credit card difficulties in March. Uncle Tommy would bring up business loan issues in April. The pattern repeated throughout the year, ensuring that someone always had a financial need, but no one appeared overly dependent. They coordinated this. It gets worse. The next document was a budget spreadsheet titled Hartwell Financial Resources. It listed my estimated income, my known expenses, and my available contribution capacity. The spreadsheet calculated that I could sustainably provide approximately $8,000 monthly in family support. They budgeted your money, Buster. They analyzed your finances and divided up what they considered their fair share of your income. My hands were shaking as I flipped through more documents. Financial aid applications listing me as Jake's sponsor. Insurance documents naming me as responsible party for various family obligations. Credit applications using my information as references. How did you get all of this? I work for a law firm that handles estate planning and financial fraud cases. When Jake started bragging about the family's Christmas planning, some of the details sounded like textbook financial abuse. I started paying attention. Rachel pulled out her phone and opened a voice recording app. I also recorded some conversations at family gatherings over the past few months, so you should hear this. She played a recording from Thanksgiving dinner. I recognized the voices of my aunts and uncles discussing my financial contributions, like a business meeting. Buster covered Derek's truck payment again this month, Aunt Sarah said. That's 3 months in a row. Maybe we should space out our requests more carefully. Uncle Tommy responded, the kid has no backbone when it comes to family. We just need to make sure he doesn't get overwhelmed and start asking questions. My mother's voice came through clearly. Robert and I think Buster enjoys feeling needed. As long as we're grateful and don't push too hard, he'll keep helping. The recording continued with my family members discussing my emotional neediness as a resource to be managed rather than a person to be loved. Rachel stopped the playback and looked at me with sad eyes. There are 4 more recordings like that one. Before I could respond, my apartment's buzzer rang aggressively. 3 long bursts, then continuous buzzing like someone was leaning on the button. They're here, Rachel said. I walked to my intercom and heard Uncle Tommy's voice booming from the lobby. Buster, we need to talk right now. This whole family is standing in your lobby and we're not leaving until you come down here and explain what you think you're doing. Through my window, I could see 4 cars parked haphazardly in my building's visitor spaces. 17 family members were climbing out of vehicles, stretching their legs after the long drive from Colorado. Don't go down there, Rachel said firmly. Let them come up here where there are witnesses if this gets out of hand. I buzzed them into the building. Within minutes, my small apartment was packed with angry family members. Derek stood near my door with his arms crossed, blocking my exit. Amanda sat on my couch crying dramatically, while her husband Mark patted her shoulder. My parents positioned themselves by my kitchen table, looking disappointed and hurt. Uncle Tommy paced back and forth in my living room like he owned the place. Cousin Jake sprawled in my recliner eating snacks from my pantry. Aunt Sarah stood by my window making phone calls about hotels in the area. Various cousins and in-laws filled the remaining space, creating a crowd that felt threatening in my small apartment. Grandmother Rose sat in my desk chair looking frail and confused. Buster. Uncle Tommy began, his voice carrying the authoritative tone he used for disciplining children. I think you owe this family an explanation for your behavior today. I don't owe anyone anything. You canceled a $16,000 vacation that 17 people were depending on. You've made financial threats that could destroy multiple family members' lives. You've acted selfishly and irresponsibly, and frankly, I'm ashamed of you. Derek stepped forward aggressively. You nearly got my truck repossessed today, Buster. The loan company called me 3 times demanding immediate payment because you threatened to remove your guarantee. I didn't threaten anything. I told you to find another guarantor or pay off the loan. That's the same thing as a threat. Amanda looked up from her dramatic crying performance. My mortgage company called and said I have 30 days to refinance or face foreclosure. Do you realize what you're doing to my children? My father Robert spoke for the first time since entering the apartment. Son, we raised you to care about family. This behavior doesn't reflect the values your mother and I taught you. I looked around at 17 faces showing various levels of anger, disappointment, and entitlement. These people had driven 6 hours to confront me about establishing financial boundaries. Not one person had apologized for excluding me from Christmas. Not one person had acknowledged the group chat or the months of planning behind my back. Did anyone here think to invite me to Christmas? The room fell silent. Did anyone consider that I might want to spend the holiday with my family? Uncle Tommy waved his hand dismissively. That's what this tantrum is about. You're upset about not being invited to one vacation. I'm upset about being excluded from my family while being expected to fund their activities. Nobody excluded you from anything, Aunt Sarah said, looking up from her phone. We just needed some adult time without having to manage your emotional needs. Rachel stood up from her chair, and for the first time, most of my family members noticed she was there. Rachel, Jake said, looking confused. What are you doing here? I'm here because Buster asked for help understanding how his family has been financially abusing him for 3 years. The room erupted in angry voices. Everyone started talking at once, denying Rachel's accusation and demanding she mind her own business. Financial abuse. My mother's voice rose above the others. That's ridiculous. Buster helps us because he wants to help us. Rachel opened her laptop and connected it to my television. The screen filled with a spreadsheet showing my family's coordinated request for money over the past 3 years. This is financial abuse, she said calmly. You've systematically manipulated Buster's emotional attachment to you in order to exploit him financially. You've created obligations he never agreed to, and you've deliberately coordinated your approach to maximize the amount of money you can extract from him. Uncle Tommy stepped toward Rachel aggressively. You need to leave this family meeting right now. This isn't a family meeting. This is a group of people demanding that their victim continue funding their lifestyle. Victim. Derek laughed bitterly. Buster's not a victim. He's a grown man who makes his own decisions. Rachel clicked to the next screen, which showed the Thanksgiving dinner recording transcript. Is this Buster making his own decisions, or is this you managing his emotional needs to maintain financial access? She pressed play on the audio file. Uncle Tommy's voice filled the room. The kid has no backbone when it comes to family. We just need to make sure he doesn't get overwhelmed and start asking questions. The room fell completely silent as the recording continued, with my family discussing my financial contributions like a business resource. When the recording ended, Grandmother Rose spoke for the first time. Rachel, dear, you're taking those conversations out of context. Am I Grandma Rose? Because I have 3 more recordings and about 50 pages of documentation showing this family's systematic exploitation of Buster's generosity. My grandmother's voice carried a tremor I had never heard before. We're family. We help each other. You help yourselves to his money while deliberately excluding him from family activities. Uncle Tommy's face was turning red. Rachel, you're way out of line here. Actually, Uncle Tommy, I think you're out of line. Your business has been failing for 18 months, but instead of closing it down or finding investors, you've been using Buster's personal guarantee to keep borrowing money you can't repay. My business is none of your concern. It is when it's built on fraud. The word fraud hit the room like a physical blow. Everyone started talking at once again, voices rising in anger and panic. Rachel raised her voice above the chaos. Has anyone here considered what happens to Buster if Uncle Tommy's business fails? He's personally liable for $62,000 in business debt for a company that's losing money every month. My mother stood up shakily. Rachel, I think you need to leave now. I'm not leaving until you understand what you've done to him. Rachel clicked to another screen showing bank statements. Buster's savings account has decreased by $46,000 in the past year because he's been covering everyone else's missed payments and financial emergencies. She turned to face my grandmother directly. Rose, did you know that Buster has been paying for your assisted living facility for 3 years, while his family makes fun of his emotional neediness. My grandmother's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know he was paying. The family told me it was covered by insurance and savings. The admission hung in the air like smoke. My grandmother, who I loved more than anyone else in my family, had been lied to about who was funding her care. "Who told you it was covered by insurance?" Rachel asked gently. Rose looked around the room at her children and grandchildren. Robert and Carol said they had handled all the financial arrangements. My father's face went pale. "Mom, we did handle the arrangements. We arranged for Buster to cover the costs." Without telling her, Rachel added, and without telling Buster that Rose didn't know he was paying. My grandmother started crying. Real tears, not the dramatic performance Amanda had been giving. "Buster, honey, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." Uncle Tommy tried to regain control of the situation. "Look, we can sort out all these financial details later. Right now, we need to focus on the immediate problem, which is that 17 people need accommodations for Christmas." "The immediate problem," Rachel said firmly, "is that this family has been financially abusing Buster while emotionally manipulating him to prevent him from recognizing it." "Enough!" Derek shouted. "Rachel, you're not even supposed to be here. This is family business." "I am family, and unlike the rest of you, I actually care about Buster's well-being more than his bank account." Derek took a step toward Rachel, and I moved between them. "Derek, don't. She's trying to turn you against your own family, Buster. Can't you see what she's doing?" I looked around the room at 17 people who had spent months planning a Christmas vacation without me, while coordinating their financial dependence on me. People who had called me emotionally needy and exhausting, while systematically manipulating my desire for family connection. "Rachel didn't turn me against anyone. You did that yourselves." Amanda started crying louder. "Buster, please. My children are going to be homeless because of your selfishness. Your children are going to learn that their mother needs to pay her own mortgage instead of expecting someone else to cover her missed payments." Uncle Tommy pointed his finger at me aggressively. "You're destroying this family." "No, Tommy. You destroyed this family when you decided that love is something you can buy and sell." 3 days later, Rachel called me with news that changed everything. "Buster, you need to sit down." "What's wrong?" "Remember when your grandmother got upset about not knowing who was paying for her care?" "Yeah. Well, she called me yesterday wanting to understand her financial situation, so I drove over to Rose Gardens to help her go through her paperwork. I could hear papers rustling in the background. "We found something, Buster, something big." My stomach started churning. "What kind of something?" "Your grandmother has been getting monthly statements from an estate account that she never opened, an account with your grandfather's name on it." My grandfather had died 2 years ago, leaving behind a modest estate that the family said had been consumed by final medical bills and funeral expenses. "What do you mean, an account she never opened?" "I mean, someone has been forging your grandmother's signature on legal documents, and yours too." Rachel's voice carried the sharp edge of her legal training. "Buster, your grandfather left an estate worth $250,000. Your grandmother was supposed to inherit half, with the remaining half split among his children and grandchildren. You were specifically named in the will as a beneficiary. But they said there was no money left after his debts. There were no significant debts. The medical bills were mostly covered by Medicare and supplemental insurance. Someone created fake debt documents and forged signatures to redirect the estate funds." My hands started shaking. "Who?" "Based on the bank records, Uncle Tommy opened an estate account using forged documents that named him as the estate executor. He's been systematically draining your grandfather's assets for 2 years." "That's impossible." "The bank has copies of all the signed documents. Your signature appears on papers you never saw agreeing to waive your inheritance rights in favor of immediate family members who needed the money more urgently." I felt like the room was spinning. "I never signed anything like that." "I know. I had the signatures analyzed by a handwriting expert my law firm uses. They're definitely forgeries." Rachel's voice became even more serious. "There's more, Buster. The estate money was used for specific purposes that you're going to recognize. She read from her notes. Derek's truck down payment came from estate funds. Amanda's house down payment came from estate funds. Your parents used estate money to pay off previous credit card debts before running up new balances. Uncle Tommy invested estate money in his failing business. They stole my inheritance to fund the debts I've been covering. It's worse than that. Jake's college tuition has been paid with estate money, which means you've been paying for his education twice. Once through the stolen inheritance, and again through your monthly sponsorship. I sat down heavily on my couch. My family hadn't just excluded me from Christmas and exploited my generosity. They had literally stolen my inheritance and then manipulated me into replacing the stolen money through ongoing financial support. Rachel, what do I do? We call the police. This is criminal fraud involving forged signatures and elder abuse. Your grandmother is technically a victim too, since they forged her signature to steal her inheritance. Will that really help anything? Buster, this isn't just about money. This is about your family committing crimes to maintain their financial control over you. That afternoon, Rachel accompanied me to the police station to file a formal complaint. Detective Maria Santos reviewed our documentation and called in a financial crimes specialist. Mr. Hartwell, based on what you've shown me, we're looking at multiple felonies: forgery, elder abuse, inheritance fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. These are serious charges that could result in significant prison time for everyone involved. I don't want to send my family to prison. Detective Santos leaned forward across her desk. Mr. Hartwell, I need you to understand something. Your family has been committing crimes against you for 2 years. They forged your signature on legal documents, stole your inheritance, and then manipulated you into replacing the stolen money through emotional manipulation. What happens if I press charges? We'll execute search warrants for bank records and financial documents. We'll interview all the family members involved in the estate fraud. If we find evidence of criminal activity, the district attorney will decide whether to file charges. Rachel squeezed my hand. Buster, you don't have to protect people who have been stealing from you. I thought about the group chat called Christmas Without Buster. I thought about my family's systematic coordination of their financial requests. I thought about them driving 6 hours to confront me about establishing boundaries while knowing they had stolen my inheritance. File the charges. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Within a week, Detective Santos called to tell me that Uncle Tommy had confessed to the forgery scheme when presented with handwriting analysis and bank records. He's trying to negotiate a plea deal by providing evidence against the other family members who participated in the conspiracy. What kind of evidence? Email communications, recorded phone calls, and financial documents showing how the family coordinated the inheritance theft and subsequent financial manipulation. Derek and Amanda were arrested 2 days later. My parents turned themselves in after their lawyer advised them that cooperation might result in lighter sentences. The local newspaper ran a story about the family inheritance fraud case. Local family faces. Charges in estate theft scheme appeared on the front page of the county section, complete with photos of Uncle Tommy and Derek being led into the courthouse in handcuffs. Rachel called me the morning the story ran. How are you handling all this attention? Honestly, I feel relieved. Relieved. For the first time in 3 years, I don't have to wonder if I'm being too sensitive about my family's treatment. There's actual proof that they were exploiting me. The legal process revealed details that made the situation even worse. Uncle Tommy's business had been failing for 18 months, exactly as Rachel had suspected. Instead of closing the business or finding legitimate investors, he had used the estate fraud to keep borrowing money with me as the unknowing guarantor. Derek had purchased his truck with estate money, then convinced me to co-sign a loan for the remaining balance. He was essentially double-dipping, using stolen inheritance funds and my credit to finance the same vehicle. Amanda's house down payment came entirely from estate funds, but she had convinced me to back her mortgage by claiming she needed help with monthly payments. She had been using my financial support to cover other expenses, while her housing costs were already covered by stolen inheritance. My parents had used estate money to pay off existing credit card debt. then immediately started running up new balances, knowing I would cover any missed payments as their designated backup payment source. The most devastating discovery was that the entire family had known about the inheritance theft. Text message records showed family members joking about how easy it was to manipulate my emotions to make me replace the money they had stolen. 6 months after the investigation began, the court case concluded with guilty pleas from all family members involved in the fraud scheme. Uncle Tommy received 18 months in minimum security prison. Derek got 12 months. Amanda received probation and community service. My parents were sentenced to 6 months in county jail with work release privileges. The court ordered full restitution of the stolen inheritance, plus interest and penalties. The total judgment was $340,000, significantly more than the original estate value due to legal fees and punitive damages. More importantly, the court issued restraining orders preventing family members from contacting me about financial matters for 5 years, following their completion of criminal sentences. While the legal case was proceeding, something unexpected happened. Rachel's live stream of the Christmas Eve confrontation had been shared on social media platforms throughout the holidays. The video, titled "Family Ditches Guy Who Pays for Their Vacation," received over 3 million views in 2 weeks. Comments poured in from people sharing their own stories of family financial abuse. A hashtag emerged, "Justice for Buster." People began posting their own experiences with family members who exploited their generosity while treating them poorly. Good Morning America called on January 15th requesting a live interview about family financial abuse. The producer explained that my story had generated national conversation about setting boundaries with exploitative relatives. "We've received thousands of messages from people who recognize their own family dynamics in your situation," she told me over the phone. "Would you be willing to discuss your experience to help others recognize and address financial manipulation by family members?" I agreed to the interview, and Rachel accompanied me to the New York studio. The segment aired during the show's most watched hour, reaching approximately 4 million viewers. The host asked thoughtful questions about recognizing financial manipulation and establishing healthy family boundaries. I explained how gradual escalation had made me blind to the scope of exploitation, and how my family's emotional manipulation had prevented me from recognizing obvious red flags. The response was overwhelming. My social media accounts, which had been mostly inactive, received thousands of supportive messages from people who had experienced similar family dynamics. More surprisingly, a GoFundMe account appeared without my knowledge or permission. Someone in Texas had created a fundraising campaign titled, "Help Buster Rebuild After Family Betrayal." Within a week, the campaign had raised $27,000 from strangers who wanted to support my recovery from family financial abuse. The donations came with messages that brought me to tears. A woman in Oregon wrote, "Your story helped me realize my brother has been financially abusing me for 5 years. Thank you for giving me courage to set boundaries." A man in Florida shared, "I've been the family ATM for my siblings and parents since I graduated college. Watching your interview made me understand that love shouldn't cost money." Hundreds of people thanked me for helping them recognize their own situations and take action to protect themselves from exploitative family members. Professional consequences for my family members extended beyond the criminal charges. Uncle Tommy's landscaping business lost several major contracts when clients learned about his fraud conviction. Derek's employer terminated his employment due to the criminal charges affecting their company's reputation in the community. Amanda's real estate license was suspended pending investigation by the state licensing board. Fraud convictions typically resulted in permanent license revocation for real estate professionals. My parents faced the most unexpected consequence. Their retirement community asked them to relocate after other residents learned about their involvement in inheritance fraud. The community's reputation depended on trust and integrity, and criminal convictions by residents created liability concerns. Meanwhile, my own life was transforming in positive ways. The legal victory had given me confidence to establish boundaries in other areas. I negotiated a promotion at work, explaining to my supervisor that my new perspective on personal worth had made me more assertive about professional recognition. Local churches began inviting me to speak about family boundary setting during their financial literacy seminars. Community colleges asked me to teach workshops about recognizing and preventing family financial abuse. Mental health professionals contacted me about developing educational materials for therapy clients dealing with family exploitation. My story was being used to help other people recognize unhealthy family dynamics. Most importantly, my friendship with Rachel was developing into something deeper. Our shared experience of being excluded from family activities had created a bond based on mutual understanding rather than financial dependency. Rachel and I began spending time together that had nothing to do with legal cases or family drama. We discovered shared interests in hiking, cooking, and old movies. Our relationship was built on genuine enjoyment of each other's company rather than need or obligation. For the first time in my adult life, I was forming a relationship with someone who valued my presence rather than my financial contributions. The media attention also brought unexpected opportunities. A literary agent contacted me about writing a book about family financial recovery. Publishers were interested in practical guides for people dealing with exploitative family relationships. Documentary filmmakers reached out about creating an educational film on family financial abuse. Psychology researchers asked to interview me for studies on family manipulation tactics. Congressional representatives mentioned my case during discussions about legislation to protect adults from family financial exploitation. Legal experts analyzed the case on television programs, helping educate the public about inheritance fraud and emotional manipulation. The most meaningful response came from support groups forming in communities across the country. People who had experienced family financial abuse began organizing to share resources and encouragement. A national organization called the Family Financial Abuse Recovery Network was established, using my story as an example of successful boundary setting and legal recovery. 6 months after the Christmas vacation cancellation, I received a letter that changed my perspective entirely. The envelope was addressed in my grandmother's careful handwriting. Dear Buster, it began. I have been attending counseling sessions at Rose Gardens to understand how I participated in the family's treatment of you. My therapist helped me realize that I enabled their behavior by not speaking up when I witnessed their exploitation. The letter continued, I want you to know that I never stopped loving you even when I participated in excluding you from family activities. I was afraid of losing my connection to my children and grandchildren if I defended you against their treatment. She explained that she was working with a therapist to understand how fear had made her complicit in the family's financial abuse. I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, she wrote, but I want you to know that I am proud of you for standing up for yourself. You showed more courage than any of us. The letter included information about her progress in therapy and her commitment to making amends for her participation in the family's exploitation. Most importantly, she enclosed a check for $4,200 representing the monthly payments I had made for her assisted living facility. I have applied for Medicaid and found a more affordable facility, she explained. I don't want you to spend another dollar on my care unless you choose to do so freely without any family pressure or obligation. Reading her letter, I realized that healing was possible even in the most damaged family relationships, but only when all parties were willing to acknowledge their mistakes and work toward genuine change. 18 months after canceling the Christmas vacation, I hosted my own Christmas dinner for 12 people who had become genuine friends during my journey of family recovery. Rachel and I had moved in together 6 months earlier, creating a home environment based on mutual respect and shared responsibilities. Our engagement announcement appeared in the local newspaper's social section, along with a photo of us hiking in the same Colorado mountains where my family's vacation had been planned. The legal settlement had provided complete financial recovery. $340,000 in restitution, plus the return of my grandfather's house, which had been purchased with estate funds, gave me more financial security than I had ever imagined. But more importantly, the settlement had given me emotional freedom. Court-ordered financial separation from my family meant I could build relationships based on choice rather than obligation. My Christmas dinner guests included Rachel, my therapist Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who had become a friend, 3 co-workers who appreciated my boundary-setting workshops, the neighbor Mrs. Henderson who had called police during the family confrontation, and several members of the financial abuse support group I now facilitated monthly. Detective Santos joined us with her husband celebrating the successful prosecution that had become a model case for family financial exploitation investigations. The district attorney attended with his wife discussing how the case had influenced new legislation protecting adults from family financial abuse. As we gathered around the dinner table I had purchased with recovered inheritance money, I reflected on how completely my life had changed since that December morning when I discovered the group chat called Christmas Without Buster. My book about family financial recovery had become a bestseller, helping thousands of people recognize and address exploitative family relationships. Speaking engagements provided both income and purpose, allowing me to help other survivors of family financial abuse. The Family Financial Abuse Recovery Network now had chapters in 43 states, offering support groups, legal resources, and educational materials for people dealing with exploitative relatives. Most gratifyingly, I regularly received messages from people who had used my story to establish boundaries with their own families, often resulting in healthier relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial manipulation. My career had flourished as my new confidence translated into professional assertiveness. The promotion I had negotiated led to additional advancement opportunities. My supervisor frequently mentioned that my boundary-setting skills had made me a natural leader in managing difficult client relationships. Rachel's legal career had also benefited from our experience. Her expertise in family financial abuse cases made her sought after by other families dealing with similar exploitation. She had become a specialist in inheritance fraud and elder financial abuse. Our relationship represented everything I had been seeking from my biological family, but had never received. Mutual support, genuine affection, shared responsibilities, and respect for each other's independence. 6 months earlier, Rachel and I had visited my grandmother at her new assisted living facility. Rose had completed court-ordered counseling and was participating in family therapy with a specialist in financial abuse recovery. The visit had been emotional, but healing. My grandmother apologized sincerely for her participation in the family's exploitation, acknowledging how her fear of losing family connections had made her complicit in their treatment of me. "I should have spoken up when they talked about you the way they did," she told me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I should have defended you instead of worrying about my own relationships." We now had monthly phone calls and occasional visits, but our relationship was rebuilt on honesty rather than financial obligation. Rose was paying her own care expenses through Medicaid and a modest pension, maintaining her independence while we rebuilt our emotional connection. My parents had served their sentences and were participating in court-mandated family therapy. They had written letters of apology that demonstrated genuine understanding of how their financial manipulation had damaged our relationship. I wasn't ready for regular contact with them, but the possibility of eventual reconciliation existed because they were actively working to understand and change their exploitative behavior patterns. Derek and Amanda had also completed their sentences and were rebuilding their lives with financial independence. Derek had found steady employment and was making payments on a used car within his means. Amanda had started a small business providing bookkeeping services for local companies. Uncle Tommy faced the most consequences from his role as the primary architect of the inheritance fraud. His business had failed completely, forcing him to seek employment with another landscaping company. But he was also attending therapy and had written a detailed letter acknowledging his manipulation and exploitation. Even Jake had changed his approach to education and family relationships. Losing his family-sponsored college funding had motivated him to choose a practical major and graduate within a reasonable time frame. He was working part-time while completing his degree in accounting. The most surprising development was that several family members had thanked me for forcing them to become financially independent. Amanda admitted that managing her own mortgage payments had given her confidence in her financial capabilities she had never developed while depending on my support. Derek acknowledged that paying for his own transportation had made him more careful about financial decisions and more appreciative of what he could afford independently. As Christmas dinner wound down, Detective Santos raised her wine glass for a toast. To Buster, who had the courage to establish boundaries that ultimately helped his entire family learn the difference between love and financial manipulation. The table joined her toast, but the words that meant the most to me came from Rachel. To the man who taught me that real family relationships are built on choice rather than obligation, and that love never requires anyone to sacrifice their financial security for someone else's approval. Looking around the table at people who valued my presence rather than my financial contributions, I realized that Christmas had become what it was always supposed to be: a celebration of genuine affection, gratitude, and hope for the future. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. For a moment, my old anxiety resurfaced. Then I read the message. "Hi, this is David Martinez in Phoenix. I saw your interview on Good Morning America last year and used your advice to set boundaries with my family's financial manipulation. This Christmas, I'm celebrating with people who actually want me there, not my wallet. Thank you for showing me it was possible. Merry Christmas." I showed the message to Rachel, who smiled and squeezed my hand. How does it feel to know you've helped so many people find their own version of chosen family? It feels like the best possible use of the worst experience of my life. As my guests helped clear the dinner table, I thought about the question Dr. Walsh often asked during our therapy sessions. What would you tell someone who is currently where you were 18 months ago? I would tell them that family relationships should add joy to your life, not financial stress. I would explain that people who truly love you will want to contribute to your happiness rather than exploit your generosity. Most importantly, I would tell them that setting boundaries with exploitative family members isn't selfish or cruel. It's necessary for emotional health and often results in better relationships built on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. The evening ended with our support group members sharing updates about their own family recovery journeys. Each person's story reinforced the lesson that had taken me years to learn. Genuine love doesn't require financial sacrifice, and anyone who demands money as proof of affection isn't offering real love in return. Rachel and I cleaned up together after our guests left, working as partners rather than as creditor and debtor. Our shared responsibilities were distributed fairly based on ability and availability rather than financial leverage. As we finished the dishes, Rachel asked the question that had become our Christmas tradition. What are you most grateful for this year? For learning the difference between being needed and being valued, I answered. And for finding people who choose to spend time with me rather than people who feel entitled to my financial support. What about you? I'm grateful for a man who had the courage to stand up for himself, even when it meant disappointing everyone he thought he loved. We sat together on our couch, looking at the Christmas tree we had decorated together with ornaments that represented our shared memories rather than financial obligations. For the first time in my adult life, Christmas morning would arrive without any anxiety about family expectations, financial demands, or the fear of disappointing people who only valued my contributions rather than my character. The journey from family doormat to independent adult had been painful, legal, and public, but it had led me to the most important discovery of my life. Real family relationships are built on mutual affection and respect, not financial manipulation and emotional exploitation. As we prepared for bed, I realized that my family's betrayal had inadvertently given me the greatest gift possible: the opportunity to build genuine relationships with people who wanted the best for me rather than the best from me. Outside our window, snow was beginning to fall, creating the kind of peaceful Christmas scene I had always imagined sharing with people who truly cared about my happiness. Tomorrow would bring the first Christmas morning in years without financial anxiety, family manipulation, or the exhausting effort of trying to purchase love through generosity. Instead, it would bring the quiet joy of genuine relationships, financial independence, and the confidence that comes from knowing your worth doesn't depend on your bank account. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where family members or close friends expected financial support without offering genuine emotional support in return? How did you handle setting boundaries with people who seem to value your contributions more than your presence? Share your experiences in the comments below and help others who might be facing similar challenges. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more content about establishing healthy family boundaries and recognizing financial manipulation. Your support helps us reach people who need to hear these stories. Don't forget to share this video with someone who might benefit from learning about family financial abuse and recovery. Sometimes sharing a story like this can help someone recognize their own situation and take the first steps toward establishing healthier relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey from family financial exploitation to genuine independence and meaningful relationships. I hope it brings you insight, courage, and the reminder that your worth extends far beyond what you can provide for others. May your own relationships be built on mutual respect, genuine affection, and the understanding that real love never requires financial sacrifice. Merry Christmas. And may your holidays be filled with people who celebrate your presence rather than your presence.